Hey, everybody, welcome back to our Fire Engineering Humpday Hangout, the issues and challenges of today's fire service. I'm Rick Lasky, along with the rest of our maniacs, Chief John Salka, Chief Scott Thompson, Chief Curtis Birt, and a lot of things going on out there. Before we go any further, we probably need to send our thoughts and prayers to the Chicago Fire Department and the Altman family. Mike, what a fourth generation. I think I met his uncle when he was the commissioner, and another great firefighter, child, another one on the way. It's always tragic, no matter what it is. But our thoughts and prayers are with the Chicago Fire Department. That being said, everybody's got a lot of movement going on. So Scott, you've got a big announcement. Let's talk about that. You posted it, so it's out there. So let's talk about what's going on. What's going on in the Thompson lifestyle.
Pulled the trigger, going to retire. May 28th is my last day as a fire chief. And no, I am not going to be a fire chief anyplace else. I'm done with that. More interestingly, my ops chief has also decided to retire. So we're faced with a situation that I have very little experience with, both number one and number two going, but 17 plus great years in the colony, and it's time for new leadership. Hand the keys to somebody else. So yeah, it's going to continue to teach and want to write another book or two and hang out with you cool guys. And so there it is.
Well, congratulations, buddy. There's a lot of movement. There's some people moving out of offices that need to move out. They need to go away. But I know personally, John can say the same thing in a second here. And Kurt, we've all worked with you for a long time. And Scott, you and I intimately with together in Louisville, and obviously with all of us at FDIC. But I love bragging on what you do in the colony. I know you'll never, so you're gonna have to bear with me here. You'll never accept any credit. You're way too humble. You're way too modest. But the colony is such a great freaking fire department because of Chief Scott Thompson. Their aggressiveness, their professionalism, the whole brother-sister thing, everything is I tell people all the time, if you want to see how it's done, go to the colony. I can't tell me how many times you sent me policies, and Scott, that's a direct tribute to your incredible leadership skills. So,
well, you were my mentor, Rick. So I thank you for that, because I always say, I was raised in the Texas Fire Service in Plano places, and I was programmed, you can't do these things, and then coming to work for you, let me see the other side of it. Wow. And I like that side obviously better. So, thank you for all of you for the things you've given me over the years. It's been a fun ride, but thank you for the kind words.
Well, it's fun. We all taught together. John will talk about that at FDIC for literally decades. And then, Curtis, all of us together going to the same fires, the same jobs. And
then we got Curtis to Texas.
Yes.
Curtis to Texas. And that was a fun time.
Yeah.
We drug him down. Well, I would say kicking his screen. Anybody who names their dog Aggie.
Yeah. That was destined. Just had to find the right opportunity.
Well, Kurt, you got movement going on. You guys in the middle of a chief process, and
yeah, absolutely. Jay retired to enjoy the family and the wife and do some traveling. So we're in the middle of our process now. We're hoping within the next week or so we'll know who we get, and we're excited to see where we go. Keep moving up.
Very cool. Very good. It's fun. I just sit back and go, okay, I'm interim, and then you get another offer for interim. You get another offer. You're like, well, no, I'm kind of busy with what I'm doing right now, but working two full-time jobs, if you will. But John Salka, Chief Salka, recently had an addition to his family, except it doesn't have two legs. It's got four wheels on it.
Oh, no, you got it.
Very nice.
You got it.
Very nice.
Down in the garage, I'm sitting right above it.
Very nice.
57, and not
57,
but very good condition.
Is it good shape? Good condition?
Huh?
Oh, look at that.
I drove it to town this morning. Get it inspected. It's old. Every state's got different rules. New York State, 25 years or older, you don't have to do the. But we have to stick something in the exhaust and make sure the exhaust is good and it's not too environmentally damaging. But 25 years or older, you're exempt from that. This thing is 60 years old, so it was way exempt. So I pulled in. I said, "Hey, for the inspection, bring it right in." So I pulled in a little garage, 4 or 5 cars in there. That's the whole place. And he's fidgeting around with the machine. There's a computer screen and a printer that prints out the stickers and stuff. And I'm just standing there watching it. He asked me 1 or 2 questions. Here's the three. Blah, blah, blah. He gets all that. He prints it out, walks around, he sticks it on the windshield. He never looked at it. He never looked at it. He didn't make me turn the signals on or the headlights or the brake lights. He just he put it on there, and I drove home. It worked out good.
John, were you
$10
looking for that specific model and year? Is that something you've been looking for, or you just it was a good deal and you took it up?
No. You know what? The real long story is I was originally looking for a Dodge Power Wagon.
He was looking for a Power Wagon, yeah.
And they are beautiful. Frankly, I think they're a little bit more beautiful than this Willys Jeep. I really do love this Jeep now, but I think the Power Wagons are a little bit, I don't want to say classier. I think they're a nicer vehicle. I think there's more to them, but they were just too pricey. The era I was looking for, the age I was looking for, the condition I was looking for, $40,000, $50,000. I said, I can't spend $50,000 on a 50-year-old car, you know?
Right.
So this thing was much, much more reasonable, in great shape. I drove 3 hours just to check it out up in Massachusetts. The guy was a retired Secret Service guy that owned it, that I bought it from. And very forthcoming with me, showed me everything, brought me out for a ride, and gave me all the information. Anyway, so I bought it, trailed it, brought it home with my buddy Chris Lucio, and here we are. So I've only driven it a couple of times. I think I'm going to drive it down to the Volunteer Firehouse tonight for drill night. Let the boys take a look at it.
Yeah. Let them polish it up for you.
Put a little volley light on there. A little volley light.
Well, that's cool. Congratulations.
Well, we don't.
But I got a couple of shows lined up. I'm going to go sit at some shows at my lawn chair, my cigar.
Is he freezing up, Kurt?
Yeah, he's freezing.
John, you froze up, buddy. You froze up. Well, we get John back. We lost him there a little bit. When he gets back, we don't have all the money that Chief Salka has here in Lucas, Texas. So we're buying a new engine, and
there we go. It's going to cost more than
we're going to do a contest on who can name the horses here, so we can do that. But anyway, we'll see if we can get John back. He was frozen there for a while, but John, you may have to log off and log back in. We lost you signal wise. I know he was fighting a storm the past couple of days. He was out of power, so we may have to get him to log out and log back in. But anyway, reminder from our producer Nat that if you have any questions, zip over to X and throw them our way as a message. Make sure you add hashtag FETalk. We can go from there. I think we got John back. I see him. He's moving now. His coffee's moving. You froze up a little bit, but you got us, John.
I'm good.
Okay, good. We got him back. So our topic today, for those jumping in there with this, is searching with or without a line, a hose line. We kind of threw the subhead. John came up with that one. Kurt came up with the title, the topic. John came up with the subhead: discovering the fastest and most efficient search method. And this is one of those. I know we all talk about this. Our good friend Bill Carey, John, you and I talk about Bill everywhere we go. Data, not drama. We love Bill. It's the folks that like to say that my chief doesn't let us do vertical ventilation on a residential structure because it's too dangerous. Firefighters die all the time, which is not true. There's no data to support that. Just like there's guys that you can come with me. I'm just gonna say this out loud. It's never happened to me. I've been given orders out as a chief officer since 1994, and to go to a structure fire and ask for someone to open the roof, and to get a captain look at me and say, "But there's no fire in the attic." And I turn around and have to ask another captain, "I need a hole in the roof," and get told, "Well, there's no fire in the attic." And I'm like, and then somebody says, they can't find the fire. I want to stick a PPV fan in the door. I'm going, well, they will find the fire. Well, that's the point. No, that's not the point. It was a wee bit frustrating. So I'll say that right here live. I've never had that. I've never had that happen before in my life. If John Salka said, "Rick, get to the roof and cut a hole," I go to the roof and I cut a hole. I don't dispute it. I don't argue it. I don't have a discussion. And I've never had that my entire life. I was going to bring it up at the Collin County Chiefs meeting tomorrow because I'm like, I've never had anybody do that. I don't know. I guess I don't fit in here. And it wasn't my guys. It wasn't Lucas. If my Lucas guys are that have been sawdust flying and roofing shingles and everything else. But that being said, the other thing is you always hear this. This whole story about we're not allowed to search above the fire floor without the protection hand line because it's too dangerous. Again, there's no data to support that either. Bill, folks, if you're at all curious, go to Bill Carey's website, Data Not Drama. He's got the articles in there. He's got the data. He'll show you. Let's talk realistic stuff. So let's talk about this topic, guys. Let's talk about the fact searching with or without a line. And I think we got John back again. We lost him again. John, if you can hear us, you want to jump in? Are your thoughts on searching with or without a hose line, if we have you?
Well, to tell you the truth, it's even really deeper than that. It's actually deeper, but actually it's more superficial. It's much easier than that. It's really just a matter of getting people to search. There are a lot of places that don't search, or they put it so far back on the list of priorities or tactics that they either never get to it, or they get to it like when conditions change, and it's either much easier or much safer or much whatever. But so number one, I don't think we're doing a great job of searching to start with. I don't think we're searching enough. I don't think we're searching early enough. That's in general. That's the whole fire service. I'm not picking on volleys or career or light staffed or heavy staffed or any other nonsense. And then when you finally do decide to go in, this whole thing about going in with a line is again, I can't believe we're even having a discussion about it. It's just absolute nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. That's not what a hose line is designed for. Hose line is to go in and put a fire out. It's an aggressive tool to go put a fire out. That's what it is. I don't know what to say. That's what a hose line's for. It's not your little safety device to bring with you while you're making a search. Number one, it slows you down so much. Now you're tethered to this hose. Now you're limited how fast you can go because you got to drag this gigantic weighted thing down. And number two, maybe they need a hose line somewhere else, and you got to tie it up in a hallway so you can feel better about it. It's just, I don't know what our listeners think, but you should be writing all this down because I'm right. You know what I'm saying? You just got to do what I say at every fire. Get your ass in there. Get your ass in there and do what you're supposed to do. If Lasky tells you to bring a hose line in, go do it. If we tell you to go search on the fire floor, above the fire floor. People like search above the fire without a line. Like they're so upset about it. I said, you know what? The Red Cross is hiring, or there's a lot of places you can go and do some volunteer work, but you really have no use to us in the fire service if you don't want to go above the fire and if you don't want to make a search without a hose line. It's just.
John, we talk about that all the time. It slows you down. Now, look, folks, we're not. You're looking at 4 people that are extremely safety conscious, and our goal is to send our people home in one piece with no burns and everything else. It is a dangerous job, but all 4 of us are into real life data, real life evidence, real life, not theory, not let's go test it. It's the facts, and Bill will tell you, and we've talked about it. Searching and trying to drag a line, search at the same time. Now, Kurt, before we go any further, and I'll throw it to Curtis first, we train people, Scott, you do too, we train people to search off the line. You're stretching a line, your nozzleman's down, and they're still pushing, and you're off the line. You bust off into a bedroom. And real quick, we're still trying to get 2 and 2 out done and out. It's antiquated. There was a great article, 3 guys did it, for those of us that were part of bringing it over from the hazmat world decades ago, the whole state and voice contact, was because the only person who had a portable radio back then was the officer. Now I've got a $10,000 portable radio in my pocket, and Scott can't search his bedroom. I search his bedroom right across the hallway. We're not talking different floors, different buildings. Well, it's the same thing. You can search off the line. You can have your nozzleman pushing a line, and you're reaching out, you're sweeping, and you're pushing, and you're hitting the fire, and I branch off and I catch a bedroom real quick. We're not against that, folks. What we're talking about is, you've got to, let's just call it, make it simpler. We got to fire the first floor. We have bedrooms on the second floor. We need to search upstairs. And like John said, if you're going to stretch a line everywhere you're going to go to search, you're going to be out of air. You're not going to get much searching done. We train people all the time to search on their hands and knees or with a tick without a hose line. And then some people say they're chiefs. We see it, John, all the time in class. Well, we're not allowed to go in without a hose on the second floor above the fire. Again, now, is there a time you're going to stretch a line? The fire's extending up through a shaft or through the wall, whatever. Of course, if you need a line up there, but not to search with or whatever. Curtis, talk about your thoughts on stretching a line and searching off the line. I want to cover that before we keep going, down this path, that it's okay to search off the line while you're stretching it, but not have the line dictate how you search. Does that make sense? Am I making sense with that?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we talk about is, the first hose line, first company on scene, the first engine company, their job is to get water on the fire and to search the fire areas as they're going. And then my first new truck company, I've got 2 that break off and search the first floor, search to go to the floor above. When situation dictates, when tactics and the smoke and the heat and the building dictate that they can do it, and they can do it easily, they go up there and they do a search. We want to get people to the areas as fast as we possibly can to get that search going, because we're there for pulling victims out.
Well, and Scott, not only do we have the data from Bill, but we've got the search project, the research project, the brown brush. I mean, again, all the data, all the stuff is talking about. They just posted the first quarter, how many lives have been saved, documented lives have been saved in the United States due to an aggressive search, going in and searching searchable spaces. Like when we had the boss, David Rhodes, on here, when we were doing John's, when his topic was the aggressive fire attack, get your ass in there. And the first thing David said, the only reason we go to fires is to search searchable spaces. We stretch lines, yes, we can put the fire up, but so we can search even more. So Scott, you've dealt with that in your travels as a chief. I'll go back to the county. You're looking at Lucas. Lucas is a very aggressive fire department. You're looking at 4 fire departments that get after it, and the county is one of them. I can't imagine you telling your guys you can't go to the second floor without a hand line to search. I mean, the guys in the county would be outside with picket signs picketing you, right? You're muted, buddy.
This is a topic I'm passionate about. I'm going to piss off all kinds of people, but I don't
That's
care.
all right. You're retiring.
More than John did.
Yeah. And so first of all, we got to look at the system. That's the problem if you have a chief or a decision maker that's not an operator, that's never done the job, right? That they don't know, so they don't understand it. That which we don't understand, we fear. But this is where it comes down to trust. We know for a fact that we can train people to be successful doing that. I just went to the races in Arlington this past weekend, the IndyCar race. Those guys have built a system where they can go 200 miles an hour in a car and be successful. Wasn't one yellow flag. So system-wise, we got to get past this generalist thing and talk more about specialists. Yeah, if I got a guy that hasn't done a search in 5 years and I tell him to do a search, I want him on that line because that's a safety net, right? But if I have guys that are doing search day after day after day after day, they're recently rehearsed, they're comfortable doing it, they're specialists. We know, look at the special operations in the military, the human mind is capable of doing amazing things. So we can train our people to be highly successful searching off the line, but it's got to start with a commitment to do that. My job is to do what's best for the colony, Texas. I don't care outside of here. And with our little Fox box homes, these little 1,500 square foot, we've got to do several things simultaneously, and we got to get in there quickly or we're going to miss our window of opportunity. These things are going to be a pile of ashes. And so that dictates how that house doesn't care what Chief Thompson's philosophy is about firefighting. It's given me a situation. I've got some stuff to solve the problem. I'm going to use that to maximize our capability. I call it minimizing net zero impact period. The quicker I can get somebody occupying that space, the better the chance of outcome for the person who's in there. So to me, it comes down to trust. I don't trust my guys. Therefore, I'm not going to let them search off the line. I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
Well, no, you're exactly right. That's first of all, I'm going to go back to something that John hinted towards and I said earlier. as an incident commander, your job is to give orders. Your job is to make assignments. Your job is to make sure the guys that are showing up are carrying out the assignments as dictated by their seat assignments, ride assignments, pre-arrival assignments, all that different stuff. You're the band leader. You're the one standing out there. I've watched John stand out in the street across from a tenement in the Bronx and say like 3 things on the radio because his guys just do this all the time. They know what they're supposed to do the moment they show up. That's because you said the trust level, Scott, is there. Plus they follow orders. And I was a little frustrated. Yeah, I was a little frustrated towards the beginning of the show here, where I mentioned about some roof operations where it's like, I don't know. I guess I was raised in a different fire service. If I showed up and Chief Salka said, Rick, get to the 2nd floor and do a primary search, I get a little salute. Got it, Chief. Off we go. I don't bat an eye. Now, we've said this before. Mac used to say this, Kurt. You can order them to the roof, but you can't order them. You can order them to the 2nd floor, but you can't. Captain Salka gets up there and goes, guys, no, the floor is gone. We can't do this. Or you get to the roof and you go, no, you know what? Good intention, Chief, but we can't do it. Yeah, I'm seeing different things up here. And the Chief says, okay, John, gotcha. Come on down. So there's always that chance when we're back to the trusting, Scott. You send an officer up there goes, I can't make the roof or I can't make the floor. But this whole disobeying orders, this all discussion on the front lawn that I went through and all this, my biggest fear is if you're not going to follow my orders when I say cut a hole in the roof, what the hell else are you not going to do? And I'm not going to get you hurt. What else are you not going to do that we need done? So, John, prioritization. You're in the 18th Battalion. I'm gonna pick 58, 38, and 56. Those are your 3 trucks that you got coming all, not all the time, but mainly in the 18th Battalion. Put them on the 2nd floor residential structure. Talk about the priorities. Now we're all good. We're all good with, yes, we search above the fire floor. What do you, if you're the captain, what are your thoughts when you're up there searching with your firefighter? Yes, you're without a line. Are there things you're looking for that maybe you wouldn't look at if you're on the line? Or, what as a captain, what are you digesting when you're on the 2nd floor doing a search for these younger firefighters to give them maybe the confidence, John, a little more?
You're talking about being on the floor above the fire? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You're up there, new line. What's going through your head?
So whatever floor the fire is on, doesn't really matter. But if you go to the floor above, and there might be a couple. I just had this discussion at a seminar out in Mineola the other day. I put a new program together called The First Alarm. And I talked about first 2 engines, first 2 trucks, second 2 engines, second 2 truck. And this exact topic came up. And I remember what I did when I was a company officer searching on the floor above was the only thing. The reason it's unique with the FDNY is because if you're searching the floor above in the FDNY, you're the 2nd 2 truck. If you're the 2nd 2 truck, means there's already 1 engine there, and there could be 2, and there's already a truck there. There's already an engine and truck there if you get there as a 2nd 2 truck. So there's a line on the fire floor already. There's a team searching the fire floor. You're like the 3rd team in, the 3rd string. I hate to say it that way. It sounds like level of competence, but I never thought about anything. If I was going to the floor above, I knew the fire floor was covered. I knew there was a hose line down there, and they would burn to death in their boots before they would let the fire go up the stairs to where they, once they knew we were up there. And that would be the only thing I might do. I might tap somebody on the shoulder or yell down the hallway or get on the radio. 5.6 to 8.8. Yeah, we're going above. Yeah, 10-4 cap. Done. That's our last conversation. Now the engine knows the 2nd 2 truck is in, and they know they're above them. So in case the shit does hit the fan, in case you lose water, in case you burst the length, your guy gets hurt and you got to shut the line down, whatever it might be, you could call him and let him know. You wouldn't have to call him and let him know if I was the captain on doing a search above, because I will be listening to the radio. Everybody should be, but I would be listening very keenly to the radio as the officer searching the floor above. And the minute I heard anything that sounded like trouble, I would do whatever I had to do up there, and I can't say what it would be because I don't know what the trouble is or how I might have to react. But it wouldn't even have to be a message to me. It could be a message from the engine officer to the incident commander, right? Could be engine 48 to 18. Go ahead. We're losing water here. We got very poor pressure. What's going on down there? Right off the bat, my ears are going to perk up on the floor above because now I'm above that fire. And he sounds like he's either losing water or there's a kink or something's going on. So I would tell my guys if they were right there next to me, heads up, just be advised of what's going on. Maybe it's starting to get hotter here or something. I don't know. But I didn't even talk about search yet. And what you got to do on the floor above is really what you got to do everywhere. Is you just got to really search your ass off. You got to get in there and you got to move like lightning. You got to move quickly. It's a primary search. You're above the fire. We know it's not a great spot to be in, but you know what? It's worse for grandma and grandpa who are laying on a bed, or some kid, laying on a bunk bed. It's worse for them. So as much as you might be a little scared, imagine the people that don't have the SCBA on or the protective equipment. So it always brings me back to my same phrase. Get in there and get the job done, and get it done quick. And we're all on limited air, whatever you're wearing, 30-minute cylinders, 45-minute cylinders. You should be able to get whatever area it is you're searching done before you start to run low on air. And if you do, then that falls onto another topic of going out and getting relief and having more people come in there. But you just gotta move like lightning when you're working on the floor above. And it never even ever occurred to me to have or ask for or even wonder if there was a line on the floor above. It just never occurred to me.
Well, and one of the things that I before we move on here is, I think, and Scott and Kurt, I think it's overlooked quite often what John talked about, the whole community. We talk search, but we don't talk communication. We talk about giving an update on your progress, your search, but we don't talk that much about listening. And Tommy Trevino, our good friend, when he used to teach search, he used to do everything from, he used to talk, John, about listening to the radio, hearing what's going on. You have to be dialed into the radio. And he used to say, not just the officer, every one of us need to be listening. And he would do kind of what they call old-fashioned, right? Get upstairs, get in the hallway, outside the bedrooms, stop crawling for a second, hold your breath, and very loud in your face piece, yell, right? Fire department, is anybody in here? And then listen for something that may sound human. We talked about, if you hear a thud or a noise, it's either something falling that's on fire, cab, whatever, an animal, a pet, or an adult. There's not, it's usually, thuds and noises are usually because of something. You don't hear that when you're not paying attention. So I didn't want to pass by that, because that's such a critical thing that John said about, he says, I didn't talk about searching it. He spent those couple of minutes talking about communication, listening to the radio, progress reports, and how they're doing and what they're doing. It. There are guys that don't even hear what else is going on the radio, let alone basing what they're going to do, how far they're going to go. Maybe they need to bet, this guy slow down for a second. They got a problem on the first floor. Or you start thinking, where's my window? If this runs up the floor, if they lose water, all that. So Kurt
a lot of that, thinking about that, when Tommy used to talk about that and teach search, it's one of those things that in the fire service, we don't do reps and sets enough to get to where things are second nature. When my guys get to the second floor and they're doing a search, exactly what John said, they need to be lightning quick. If they're thinking about how their mask fits, or where their air pack is, or how their tools are supposed to be carried, or how the can's supposed to be carried, or if they're doing a left or a right hand search, and they're thinking about all that stuff instead of what they should be thinking about, which is the search and finding a way out and knowing where your second egress is and knowing where your other guys are. We do a lot of communication and stuff that isn't necessarily always a radio. We teach our guys 2 smacks on the floor with your tool. Guess what? I know where everybody's at. Or if I smack it twice on the floor, you do the same thing. But it's those things that become second nature, and we can't be thinking about how to do a good search. We have to do a good search. Well, and that comes from practice and being in there and officers setting expectations and just practice.
Well, experience.
That's it. Exactly. Sometimes you got to get it on the fire ground. Sometimes you got to get it in the training field.
And
go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, buddy.
And that goes back to what I was kind of saying about a system problem. The fire service is all about this. Everybody should be able to do everything. And I get it. In some departments, you have to. You don't have the people. But think about it. If you pull up, if you're going to be assigned to fire, attack, or search, you're going to size that building up 2 totally different ways. At least I did. If I knew I was fire attack, I was looking for things totally different than, we're still looking at building construction. We're still looking at fire conditions. So if I'm getting that assignment in the front yard, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. So, okay, you're going to do search. Now my mental process starts there. I got to collect myself. I got to start my size up. That's going to cause delays. If I know when the tour starts that if I go to a fire today, my primary focus is going to be search, I can start thinking about that. I can start listening on the way to the call. And I size up and I get off the rig and I'm purposeful and deliberate. So it's a system thing, but there's a whole group of chiefs out there. Well, that stifles critical thinking. And, the whole fire ground's got to be based on one person telling everybody what to do. I mean, when you say that out loud, doesn't it sound a little bit crazy?
It's not just crazy, like you're dealing with maybe children, that don't know what they're doing.
And I just wrote that in an article. I just wrote an article about, the predetermined. We've had this conversation here before with this group about having predetermined assignments, and some places can and some places can't. Some folks don't have enough people on the rig to do that. If you do, that's wonderful. But one of the greatest things about it is what you're doing all day long. When you're in the kitchen cleaning the pots, when you're playing ping pong, when you're watching the Yankee game, all day long that if there's a job, you're going to be forcing the door, And when you get on the rig and you hear the address, you're like, oh, that's projects. Now you're going to a metal door. You're probably going to grab the rabbit tool. Why? Because you got forceful entry today, or if you're the outside vent, you're going to a project. You're not going to be on a fire escape because they don't have fire escape. So you're going to maybe be venting from the floor above. So that's a wonderful thing about that. Like Curtis just said as well, being trained, being all trained up, being experienced, knowing what you're doing. You're on, at least the guys in my job and lots of jobs are like it. You're on the OV. You're on that page all day. Or you get the irons. You're the irons man all day, every run. You're picking up the same tools. You're riding in the same seat. And by the end of the day, you took 10, 12, 15 runs in as the irons guy, looking at doors, checking them out, carrying the tools. It's wonderful.
Well, here's something I want to point out here. We'll get Scott back in a sec. He had some internet problems. Today's the internet day. But we've talked about this plenty of times before. And I know you'll agree with me because we're cut from the same cloth. It seems like the one skill, John used to say, the most important thing you do as a company officer is train your firefighters how to search in a smoke-filled building. The most important thing you do is teach them how to stay oriented in a smoke-filled building. That's what you're going to teach your firefighter. One thing, it's how to stay oriented in a smoke-filled building, your room orientation drill. Well, and I think and correct me if I'm wrong, I still think it's one of the drills, one of the techniques that are practiced and drilled on the least. If you ask people, when's the last time you've done a reduced or zero visibility search drill, room orientation drill, and how long was before that? And I say this, I go, if you don't think it's important, so excuse me. Welcome back, Scott. It's the internet day. So, but we talked about this. God gave everybody outside here. God gave everybody, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, 5 things to live their life and do their jobs. 5 things, 5 senses. And what do we always ask people? So, how much vision do you have? How much sight do you have inside a burning building? Well, that's pretty much done. Okay, what about hearing? Well, you might be better with hearing, but you have hoods and regulators. What about, John, you always say you got the bozo gloves on, so you lost that with your thing. You don't have smell, you don't have taste. So I tell people, I said, let me get this straight. Chief Salka just told me to go in and search in a building for the scene of the fire or any missing or disoriented or trapped occupants with little or no use of the 5 senses that everybody else in the world gets to use pretty much for their jobs. I know there's probably a couple out there before the haters do. I'm just saying, tell me that doing search drills isn't important. Tell me that, doing these drills, and if you showed up a construction site like that, they'd send you home with a white cane and a C&I dog. But we expect firefighters to do that, rightfully so, to search on their hands and knees with a tick, without a tick, whatever. Well, you're not going to be, and John, you said it, the whole training experience. You're not going to do that well if you don't train. So a lot of departments have to look at their training priorities. And I know we like to jump out of helicopters or carabiners, all the fancy stuff. When's the last time we've doing a roof? You know what? If you can stay oriented in a smoke-filled building, that means you can search better, you can stretch a hose line better, you get to do everything better when your comfort level is there because of your training, operating in a reduced or zero visibility. And I just think we need to emphasize that a little bit, that if you're not going to train those things, among other things, but if you're not going to train it, you're going to suck at a lot of stuff. So I'll throw that out, to you guys. Scott, your thoughts?
No, I mean, training is essential. It's essential, and it's not doing the minimum. It's doing what's needed. Having standards, something to train to, and not just hey, coming up with a drill at the last minute. Be purposeful and deliberate. If we decide as an organization that we want to have an aggressive search culture or a thorough search culture, or whatever you want to call it, then we're going to train to that. And we're going to define what we want to achieve. We're going to work till we get to that point, and then we're going to continue to improve. And we're going to put people in situations where they get to practice that or rehearse it. And so I don't see how we're successful without training. And I always say every one of us has goals, future goals. We want to live a different part of the country or retire at a certain age. Every decision we make in the firehouse each tour is going to impact those goals, right? We could get a career-ending injury, God forbid, a fatality. And so we got to make it personal. We got to make the why me connection. And then we got to say, hey, we're not just training just to check the box. We're doing this to achieve something. And that's really a huge part of leadership also.
Well, and we say this all the time. Why are the departments that are the busiest? John, we talk about Stockton and Wichita. Now, why are the departments that are the busiest? Why are they the ones, Pearland, the Colony, why are they the ones that seem to train the most? And the departments that are slowest seem to train the least. You think it would be the other way around. So, John, I want to play on your experience for a second here, okay? Because I tell people all the time, look, you want to figure out whether you're right or wrong in your tactics, in your mind, in your mindset, whatever. Why don't you talk to someone that's actually done it before? Why don't you, like we just switched Scott to 4096. You know what? Go talk to the guys in the Colony. They work it. They've been working for a while. Ask them how they like it. John, play back in your experience. Some of the busiest companies in the FDNY, some of the busiest fire duty companies, not just alarms, fire duty companies. Think about how many times you've been on whatever floor above the fire and you've located and you've made grabs on unconscious. You were telling me a story yesterday about it. We were on the phone talking about coming across, you were talking way back when, but even now, how many times are your guys nowhere near a hose line, nowhere even remotely close to hose line, searching aggressively and coming across victims and locating them with quite often a very successful outcome?
It happens, and Bill Carey has sort of diminished the mystery, because he collects information and then shares it. And a lot of people read it and say, holy cow, look how many rescues, look how many victims have been saved at fires by search teams. Because now finally somebody's looking into it, right? And I said it for years, way back, when I was a younger firefighter, worrying about contracts and the union and layoffs and staffing, and we're not going to have 5, we're going to have 4 on the engines. And, everybody paid very close attention to. I said, why aren't we counting how many people we saved? Why do we put so much attention into counting how many people are lost, right? Every fire department does it. Annual report, yep, $2,300,000 worth of damages last year, fire damages. Well, no, why don't you tell me how many fires you saved? How many houses did you save? Every little one-room job that you put out, that's a saved house. You saved the whole house. You put it out at one room, How many victims did we save? The FDNY started doing it about 20 years ago. I don't even know where I would look to find it, but it's on the fire reports now. And you can add victims, saved, victims removed, rescues made, whatever the technical definition is. And it's wonderful. And it happens in my job. I don't go to other people's jobs. I don't know. It happened in my job all the years I worked. I was a battalion chief for 17 years. I can't tell you how many fires I was at, and all of a sudden you hear 5-6 to 1-8, 1045. I got 2 1045, second floor, 2 1045, floor above. 1045 is an unconscious victim that has to be removed. Not somebody that you're walking down the stairway, not somebody that you're helping out the window onto a fire escape so a towel ladder can come. No. Those are removals. I'm talking actual rescues. People that are unconscious, maybe near death. Some of them were dead, but 1045 is the code. And we get 1045s all the time. All the time. Now, some of them unfortunately die, but a lot of times they don't. Many, many times they don't. Matter of fact, often, and I have to always keep saying in the FDNY, often in the FDNY, if there's 5 1045s, 2 of them die and 3 of them survive. Very rarely does everybody die, And we can talk like this amongst ourselves. It's not like there's too many civilians listening to us. And it sort of sounds a little insensitive, which I've been accused of before, but it really is just a numbers game. It really is just a numbers game, and it brings us right back. This whole little discussion I just had is in a circle. I just went around a racetrack, and I just came back to square one again. Get your ass in there and make a good lightning search, like Curtis just said. Make a lightning search, and that's what our guys do. If you're in the floor above and you're jacking around out in the hallway, you're going to get run over by the second due truck. Run over. When they get to the second floor, they are zooming. They're zooming to not the floor above. Obviously, they're on the floor above. They're zooming to the apartment above the apartment that's on fire. And that's the prime spot. That's the prime spot for finding 1045s. And I'll tell you what, and they're in there in a flash. and it's great. I'm so proud of that, and I'm so proud of my fire department. It was like that before I got there. It was like that while I was there, and it's still like that today. And that's a goal. That should be a goal for every fire chief and every fire department. And let's bring it down to the easier level. The easier level to make stuff happen. That should be the goal of every company offset, to say, I don't know what they're doing at truck 2, but we're truck 1. And when we're the second due truck, we go to the floor above. I'm assuming you had something like that. Let's get there, guys. Let's get there. No lollygagging around. No walking around the rig looking for your tool, looking for your this, looking for your that. You should be dressed when you get on the rig. When you get off the rig, one step should be the first step. The next step, you should be practically running. You should be moving. You see guys getting dressed, looking for their SCBA in front of a building that's on fire, and they're getting dressed in the street in front of it. Like Curtis said, all those other things that you have to know about, they got to be automatic. You shouldn't even be thinking about it. Getting dressed, guys getting dressed on the apparatus floor, climbing on the rig. They're listening to the radio. They're already listening to what the reports are of the first due engine or the first due truck, and that's why we've got a speaker in the back. The speaker in the crew compartment is so the firefighters can listen to what's developing ahead of them, and it's just.
And you're right. And just, you guys saw it for years and years and years and years and years. I've had a sign that hangs behind me. It's not my temporary office here that says expect fire, expect victims. And if you go in there with that thought process that we've always said there's no fire unless we say there's no fire. There's nobody in the building unless we say there's no one in the building. It's not out until we say it's out. Expect fire, expect victims. It's hard to get snookered that way when you do that. And Scott, if you had something, I was going to ask Curtis. Go ahead.
Well, John hit on a good point, but think about this, and here I go again. I'm going to piss off another set of people. But if you look at the national level, fire service leaders. Now, again, I got 2 sons on the job, so I'm a big believer in firefighter safety. But the attention is on, and we all know somebody who suffered from firefighter cancer. We've all experienced suicides. Those are big deals. But how many chief officers nationally are advocates for fire victim survival? You don't hear a lot about that. It's coming from the bottom up. These firefighters are wanting to do the firefighter rescue survey. That's all coming from the bottom up.
Yes.
But I don't hear a lot of chiefs. We go to all these conferences. How many chief officers give a presentation on fire victim survivability? It's all about, mental health and cancer, which are important. Don't get me wrong. But we got to balance it. We got to balance it because we exist to save people. The greatest investment in our fire departments is in our fire suppression and fire rescue capability. We should be pretty darn good at that. But where are those people leading the charge? I mean, we're doing it here, but we're going to get criticized for what we're saying. We're in the minority.
Well, it's that whole thing is, where are all the masterminds? John says it. I don't want to attach it to any initials to a particular program, but where are all the geniuses, or as we call them, the ring knockers? The guys, they're not wearing like Scott department ring like you and I wear, something like that. But you know what I'm talking about. The whole, where are all the geniuses?
We're all the graduates. We're all the graduates. Yeah. They bang them out every year. All these guys. Oh, I made it here. Here's my certificate. And then we never hear from them again. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know what the chief's phrase should be? The chief's phrase should be, anybody who's alive in that building when we get there, I expect to survive. I expect them to survive the fire. That's right.
And our whole design as a fire department should be wrapped around those efforts. And I think, Scott, to your point, I think we've kind of forgotten what our mission is, what the mission. I think we're kind of wandering out there.
Mission drift. We drifted.
Yeah, perfect. Mission drift. It's like I thought we were supposed to do this and this and this. Look, all the other stuff. I love all the other stuff. I love doing pub ed. I love educating children. I think we're supposed to educate people on how not to have problems in the first place, and then how to prevent them. But I thought we were supposed to. That prevent harm meant I should be ready to run out that. And I said it here. I'm just going to say it. I love sitting at the kitchen table in Lucas, Texas, because the doorbell will ring. And this is the sign when you're somewhere. John, when you and I go have coffee, right, at a firehouse after teaching. When the doorbell rings and 2 guys bolt up from the kitchen table and they're racing each other to get to the door to see who's ringing the doorbell, they don't run for the front doorbell and not run for the rig. You know what I'm saying? They don't, let's go as a good. No, that means They beat their asses out to get on the engine and get out there, John, the seconds. And if they're willing to run to the freaking front door to see what civilians got a question, what deliveries there, I know they're running for the rig. You know what I'm saying? But,
and you know, Brian told me when he was in Wichita, only a short time, but he was in Wichita, and I rant and rave about him all the time, and it's all deserved. You know, we know about the engine, how quick they get in and all that. They time themselves, but they do it for the truck too. You know, truck rolls up from when the wheels stop. They have a self-imposed 1 minute. The firefighters and the company officers, the people on the rigs, not the guys at headquarters, not the incident commander, not the guy with the blue card or the guy with the iPad or the crayons or all that shit that all these guys have at fires, right? Not those guys. The guys that pull up on a rig, they got a 1 minute self-imposed one minute. From the time that the wheels stop, you got a minute to be off the rig, SCBA on, charged on your face and in the front door. Search underway.
And what if you don't believe what he's saying, folks? Watch the videos. And I gotta go back. Look, the guys in Wichita will tell you the same thing, John. We all see our departments. So we're not perfect. There's not a perfect fire department out there. But, as John says, but, okay. There's a lot of backing behind that. And I talked to one of the guys from Stockton, California, because they do the same thing with their videos, right? We all watch their videos.
I just saw one recently, Stockton.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I want to be there when I'm watching those videos.
I want to work for Stockton, California.
Me too,
so I'm like, and you see they lead in with the verbiage, right? You see their red logo, their Maltese cross Stockton. It says at approximately 1:27 p.m. You know, first arriving, you're going to show them this and that. And they did one, water on the fire inside, stretched, charged, bled, on air, door force inside, and it was a minute like 20 seconds, minute 27, I think it was. And I talked to one of my buds out there, and he's not happy with that. He's like, yeah, good. I go, that was pretty close. Yeah. That minute 27. You ought to see my engine. You know, minute 27, he's almost saying they should be embarrassed there are people that can't put their air pack on the right way. I watched the guy not too far from here, third due unit at a fire, get off the rig with his face piece on, the captain with no air pack on his back. Anyway, I can show you that video another day. But
save me.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, I'm just saying. But he was actually, I was almost snickering. He's going, yeah, well, I go, that was pretty close. Yeah. I go, what? He goes, we're faster than that. My guys are faster than that. He goes, that's a challenge for us. Like, oh, really? Like Wichita. Oh, really? You think that's good? Watch me. And I love that whole competition breeds champions thing from Barry Gordy. It's like, why would you not want to be the best? Go ahead, John.
And one more thing. And the problem is everybody's different. So everybody has their own standards. So somewhere else, you know, we got a 2 minute standard, man. From when you get there to when you get in the front door, you got to be in the front door with a line under 2 minutes. And some people feel really good about that. And I don't want to be critical of that.
That is good.
That may be all they can do.
Huh?
That might be all they can do.
Exactly. Somebody has their own standard, but everybody
goals.
should be working at improving it. And how about working at just establishing one? Establish a finish line. Establish a finish line. So when you pull up and you open up the door, go. The whistle just blew. Whatever the best it is you can do with your one person or your two people in your group compartment, whatever the best you can do, that's what you should hold yourself to, and maybe try and make it better and better.
Exactly. That competition. These guys here, I got guys that just did Scott the Ironman over on Lake Lewis, all that stuff, and I know them, and I'm like, and they're waiting because they're like, I know what they're going to do, John. We're going to do our runouts, and they're going to stretch the line for the drill. You know, the whole drill. Cross lay charge, blah, all that. And he's going to throw the line down and he's going to point and go, beat that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything with us challenging each other to be better or what we're supposed to be doing for the people out there that expect us to be great at what we do. Kurt, so you got a young firefighter and a captain sitting in front of you for one of your truck companies. Talk second floor search to them. Talk to the firefighter about priorities and to his or her captain about priorities. They're searching above the fire floor, the two of them, you're sitting there. What are you telling the kid, the new firefighter, about what to look for and what to do, and what are you talking to their captain about?
One of the big things is I think that you have to introduce them to not only they're searching for victims, but they're also searching for fire while they're up there, and they're searching for hazards and what's going on, because they're going to be letting back to the company officer or to the incident commander that we may need a second line up there. We're not getting something accomplished. But the big thing is talking about primary versus secondary and how we have to do that lightning fast search and the difference between that. But also searching with speed, knowing your tools, knowing your equipment, knowing how to carry things, knowing that you should be thinking about the search, not about how to carry your tools, and how you communicate back to your company officer and how your company officer needs to communicate with them. And always as you're searching, looking for your egress point if you got to get out of there in a hurry. Because you're, like we've all been talking about, you're above the fire, and things may turn overnight. You know, we had the Flower Mountain fire. There's a couple videos that just came out within the last week of guys having to bail on second floor fires because of condition changes and stuff. And then we just, Sugarland just had one too. But it all goes down to being fast, knowing your job, knowing how to get out, knowing how to communicate, and knowing what each other's expectations are and fulfilling those. One of the things we were talking about a little bit about, Scott was bringing up, and I think sometimes in this business we get one subject and we start thinking about it. This year we're just going to talk about search, and we don't talk about search as part of a coordinated fire attack. So you got to have search, and you got to be able to pull hose lines quick, and you got to be able to ladder quick, and you got to be able to communicate. So we sometimes hold ourselves, I think, less than we really could, or hold ourselves. We're really good multitaskers. But we, as chiefs, or we as training divisions, sometimes concentrate on one thing at a time, and we don't put them all together to where we show them we can do all this stuff like Scott says in a zero impact period, or this within 60 seconds. That's all coordinated and all stuff that has to be done as a group and together. But I think it's setting those expectations and showing them what the finish line looks like. It's hard for them to work towards something unless they see what the goal looks like.
Oh, exactly. And I look, like it or not, a lot of us do, wildland and stuff. And you just talked about knowing where your escape, is. In wildland, you're always looking for your escape route. Where are you going to go? I Wichita County working for Ryan Fetcher. I remember one fire, Scott, 3 times it wrapped around me, and I was beating feedback from the utility room, which was my escape route. That was my safety zone. That's what they teach you in wildland. It's the same thing. You're the captain. You're going to the second floor. I remember Kurt a long time ago. Remember we went to ride out, and you were on squad 1. I was on 235 engine with John, with George Johnson. Yeah. And remember Kurt, I videotaped. Remember, I still have it. And every single FD1 firefighter, not just the officers, as they're walking up, still today, I see guys walk around like this. Not them. They're like this. They're
looking at the building,
looking up. Every one of them's looking up. And so my point is to what you said. If you're the officer, you're the firefighter, and you're thinking, I'm going to get searched. Scott, Chief Thompson just signed me a search on the second floor. You shouldn't be walking into a building not knowing where not knowing how
to know how to size it up from the position you were just in.
Yeah, you look up, you're looking, I got windows there. These guys that get lost sometimes, like, you didn't crawl into a cube in this house. There's windows and things, and, kind of have an idea. So if things do go sideways, because they do, you go, guys, come here. This is a bedroom. I guarantee you there's a window in this bedroom. Come on, let's go. Whatever. But that goes back to being comfortable with your role in the fire service, your officer, being comfortable where if you're new, you're not thinking about that stuff. That's why you need someone that knows what they're doing a little bit to lead the role when you're going up there. That's thinking about things I never thought of as a young firefighter. Oh my God, I was so excited. We're high-fiving, we're going to fight a fire. And Bill Allen's looking at me, and he's already thinking about the building construction, where the fire's at, where it's going to go, blah, blah.
There's the vent pipes. That's where the bathroom is. There's the stairwell.
What Tom Freeman said for years, a good officer is the one that can predict his or her next tomorrow. Go ahead, John. You were going to say something.
It's just like when I was the captain of 48, we'd knock a fire down. We'd have a good job. We'd stretch, just to stretch off the rig. No standpipe, no nothing. We'd stretch up the second, third floor, whatever it was, knock the fire down, and a good job. Chuck will be searching, negative primaries, and, we're in there all shitted up, and the fire's out, and the chiefs, pilot will hold and all that. And it's all knocked down now, and I tap the nozzle man or the backup guy, whoever it was, the youngest guy, say, Billy, yeah, Cap, what floor are we on? What floor are we on? You did a great job putting that fire out. What floor are we on? He had no idea. He had no idea what floor we were on. And then of course we'd explain later. I didn't have a big class right there in the burnt out hallway, but later on I would explain. Maybe on the way back on the rig, or maybe after we got back. I didn't want to embarrass him or anything, but say, what happens when something bad happens? You're on the line. All of a sudden the ceiling comes down. All of a sudden it's a flash over. You get to a window. Holy shit! I'm in the rear. Mayday! 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 We're in the rear. What floor you on? I don't know. I don't know what floor I'm on. Something as simple as knowing what floor you're on is important. And the minute one guy hears me asking a guys are like, yeah, this captain asks all the time. You better keep track of what floor you're on. So that's helpful to start, because other people start paying a little more attention to it. But it's all real easy stuff. Just, I tell guys in class all the time, Rick, you've heard me say this, pop, what's that sound? That's you popping your head out of your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like some guys are just more interested in turning their camera on and doing all this other stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they don't know what floor they're on, or they don't know that there's two entrances to this building and they're just using one of them, but there's another one, at the other end of the building. So, yeah.
But that's a real important thing for you as a company officer, looking at that and seeing your people. And sometimes you got to look at your people and knowing that if you see somebody's getting hyper and getting tunnel vision and not seeing everything, it's like, all right, let's take a deep breath. Think about what we're doing. I need you to go in here, take a left-handed search. I'm going to be right here. I'm going to tap the table twice. You're going to tell me where you're at. Keep in communications and get back here.
Well, because
knowing your people, and
it's not
we're
normal.
not a normal situation.
Visibility. It's not normal if you're searching. That's not a normal thing. That's not your comfort zone. So the more you train, and like I said, if you want the best room orientation drill you'll ever go through in your life, hands-on, you do it through John Salka. And we've tried and we've come close, Scott and Kurt, but we can't duplicate what he's doing. But it comes back to that comfort level. You can just spot him, and it doesn't happen on accident. It doesn't. Scott, closing thoughts, buddy. Searching with or without a line above the fire.
So, in closing, you got to make it personal. A story that I just started telling in my classes that I avoided for many years, and I think the statute of limitation is passed. But I was in Lake Cities for 4 years, and during those 4 years, we had 5 fire fatalities. That's a lot for a small department. And I will tell you now, it's because as the chief, I didn't make searching a priority. I didn't know what I didn't know. I mean, we were good at stretching lines and fires, but the culture didn't value exactly what we're talking about. So I made it a personal commitment to me.
You had great guys.
I know. Oh, yeah. But I made a commitment to myself that I'm never going to let that happen again. So that has been one of my motivators. The second thing, we've all talked about our grandkids and all that. It's my responsibility as chief of the Colony, Texas, to create a fire department system that I would want coming for my grandbabies. We've all heard that. Or do you want saving you? But what a hypocrite I am if I expect a higher level of service where they live than I'm willing to commit to where I have some say and responsibility. The last thing I want to say, and Bill Carey disagrees with me on this as far as how society views law enforcement with the active shooter things and firefighters. But if you're keeping up, they just finished the first trial in Uvalde where they were holding police officers accountable for not getting in there quick enough. I think the fire service is going to start to be included in that. And again,
Good.
Bill Carey did
100%.
But I mean, if my philosophy is, well, vent enter search is too dangerous or searching off the line is too dangerous. And so therefore we won't do it. And a firefighter's house catches on fire who's seen behind the curtain, who knows what we should be doing and calls that out. Now, are we in that conversation now? Are we standing before a jury defending our actions with no data? It's all emotion-based opinion. The day's coming.
Oh, it goes back to, and you mentioned him, we've talked about him in this particular show with Bill Carey, but the data not drama. And, he deals in a lot of what he deals with is the real world, not the make believe. And that's what all 4 of us do. We're like, just what you said there, Scott, that's coming. Just like John, I've talked about, cops wear body cams. Imagine when you're doing a line of duty investigation, that if you had a camera that was attached to an SCBA that read temperatures and told you different things, that told you where you were at, and you can actually see maybe something. I used to say for years, I wish I could reach down into someone's coffin and grab them and say, tell me what happened. Why did you go left? Why did you go right? Why did that, it'd be nice to have that stuff. So that's a great point.
Let me add something before we go further about last.
Go ahead. You're going to finish up, John. Go ahead, finish up.
I wrote an article a few months ago, maybe even last year, about about the helmet cams or body cams, whatever you want to call them. I know the cops fought them forever, and now every cop in the world's got one, and it turns out to be a pretty good thing for most cops, them body cams. Could you imagine if every firefighter in America, you have to have an SCBA, you have to have a hood, you have to have all this stuff, but could you imagine if you had to have a body cam or a helmet cam? There would be no mysteries at line of duty deaths. There would be no mysteries. We would know how every firefighter died. We'd know how every victim died practically. There'd be 10 guys or 12 guys, or in the case of the FDNY, 35 or 40 guys inside a burning building, and you can put them all together. They can synchronize and see, well, there's the flash in the fire room. What's happening on the floor above? Let's look at their cameras right now. And you're listening to them talk. You can hear the radio. And we resist them. And instead, everybody's saying, "Nope, no body cams. You're not allowed to have cameras in this fire department." We should be encouraging it rather than restricting it. Absolutely.
Exactly. Kurt, closing thoughts too?
Just like and we've talked about 100 times with this is all about training and teaching your people how to do their job. And every firefighter, every officer, every chief officer on a scene should know the expectations of the department. And should know that we are there for one thing. No, we're there to save people, whether it's EMS call, it's a fire call, it's a wreck, it's whatever. And if we're not getting in there and giving them every chance we can, we're not doing the people that we serve every day and are paying our paychecks the service that we promise them and they expect from us. And to do that, we as chiefs officers have got to set the expectations. We've got to put the effort behind training and to get people into those places the best they can.
Absolutely. It all comes down to it. All right. So, Kurt, if they want to get a hold of you, email?
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me here at Pearland, or my personal is cburt@me.com.
All right. Chief Thompson, the soon-to-be retired Chief Thompson from the colony.
Soon to be Mr. Thompson. Soon to be Mr. Thompson.
He'll always be Chief Thompson. Scott, email?
Scott at fireserviceleadership.com, and there's a good chance in 2 months you may never be able to get in touch with me.
Not going to know what a phone is anymore, are you?
Where's Scott at? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I just got hit with a golf ball or something he hit me with. But John, email for you?
Chief John Salka at gmail.com.
And I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com. And we're here the third Wednesday of every month with you most of the time, unless one of us gets jammed up with something. Tomorrow night, John and I will have our radio show, The Command Post. We'll be at fireengineering.com right here. We've always got some great shows. There's some great Humpday Hangouts with a lot of good folks here on Wednesdays. There's some great podcasts in the evening. We're going to see you in a month. We're going to see you at FDIC. We're there. You can't miss us. We'll be in the book booths. We'll be in the speaker ready room. We'll be all over that place and teaching our classes and having a great time. Fire engineering, like I said, always has some great stuff right here for you. We never end any of our shows without a very important statement, especially right now. And that is, please keep the men and women in our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. Truly, please do that. There's some incredible people where a lot of us are very partial because our kids serve or have served. There's some pretty special people out there, doing what they do to take care of all of us, and not just in our country. They mean all of us. And remember this, never forgetting means just that, never forgetting. Be safe. God bless you guys. Thank you for another great show.
Bye, guys.